He built rockets, reshaped industries, and became the face of technology for a generation. But the one thing Elon Musk never prepared for was hearing his young son whisper a prayer for him in the middle of the night. And what the boy said would awaken something Elon thought he had buried forever. The Musk household, though quieter than the White House, never truly slept. At 1:43 a.m., the glow of monitors hummed in Elon's home office. Data feeds and prototype schematics left flickering on screens. Down the hall, the polished floors echoed faintly as an assistant slipped out, after dropping off late reports. But in the private wing, past heavy doors that separated the world's richest man from everyone else, the silence was of a different kind. Not restful, not peaceful, just distant. Elon stood in the hallway with a half-finished glass of sparkling water, staring at a framed photograph from the early days of SpaceX. He was younger there, sharper, hungrier, eyes blazing with a fire that nothing could stop. Tonight, though, he felt heavy. Not tired exactly, but weighted down by something he didn't have a name for. Grimes was away on a recording trip. His older kids were scattered in different cities. The house felt emptier than usual. And then there was X, his youngest, upstairs, supposedly asleep. Over the past year, the boy had grown taller, quieter, older in ways Elon didn't expect. He didn't argue, didn't demand much, just disappeared into his room after dinner. A pattern Elon noticed but didn't understand. He sighed, turned to head back toward his study. And then he heard it. A faint voice. At first he assumed it was staff talking on a call. But as he stepped closer to the hallway leading to his son's room, his breath caught. It wasn't a phone. It wasn't a video. It was his son, praying. Elon froze outside the door, one hand brushing the cold handle, but not turning it. Inside, X knelt by his bed, small hands clasped. His voice was soft but raw, unpolished. "God," the boy whispered, "I don't know if you hear me, but I think maybe you do. And I think you care about people even when they stop caring back." Elon's grip on the doorknob tightened. "I don't want to ask for things just for me," the boy continued, "but I want to ask for my dad. He says he's strong, but I think he's just tired. He has to be someone for the world, but I don't know if he remembers who he really is." Elon closed his eyes. The words were too much, beautiful and piercing in a way he wasn't ready for. "Please help him feel loved," X whispered. "Help him know he doesn't have to win all the time, that it's okay to be human, and if he's forgotten how to cry, could you remind him?" Elon stepped back, heart pounding. He didn't want to hear more, not because it wasn't beautiful, but because it was too much. He returned to his study, set down the untouched glass, and sat in silence. For the first time in years, something unfamiliar stirred in his chest. It wasn't ambition. It wasn't pride. It felt like shame. The next morning, Elon Musk didn't follow his usual routine. There was no barrage of phone calls to his communications staff, no rapid-fire texts about Tesla production numbers, no obsessively scanning news feeds. When his assistant, Marcus, brought in the latest technical reports and investor updates, Elon waved them away. Instead, he opened the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside lay a small, leather-bound notebook. His mother had once given him when he was still a teenager in South Africa. He hadn't touched it in years. The pages were stiff with age, corners worn from a time when he used to jot down thoughts and questions about the universe. He flipped it open, not to any page in particular. His eyes landed on something he had scribbled long ago, almost forgotten. "Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet." The handwriting was shaky. The words from a boy who had not yet built rockets or companies, but who had already been asking bigger questions than most adults dared to. Elon stared at the sentence. Strength, weakness. These were words he had spent his whole life grappling with, building, pushing, defying anything that hinted at fragility. Yet last night his son had prayed not for success, not for victories, but for his father to remember how to be human again. At lunch, Elon surprised his staff. Instead of demanding charts and timelines, he asked one of the aides, "What does my son usually eat when I'm not around?" The aide blinked, caught off guard. I think he just eats with the staff, sir. I'm not sure who talks to him." "Find out," Elon said firmly. That evening, he asked the kitchen to prepare 2 of whatever X usually had. Then, in an unusual move, he walked upstairs and knocked on his son's door. The boy opened it, headphones around his neck, eyebrows raised in surprise. Oh, X muttered. Mind if I join you? Elon asked. For what? Dinner. The boy hesitated, then stepped aside. They sat on the couch, plates balanced on their laps, eating in silence. Not awkward silence, just quiet. After a while, Elon cleared his throat. You ever pray before dinner? X looked at him. Sometimes. I used to, Elon admitted. When I was your age. My mom made me. X gave a faint smile. Elon shifted, nervous in a way he rarely felt in boardrooms or interviews. You talk to God a lot? He asked carefully. Sometimes, the boy replied. Elon's throat tightened. He hesitated, then said, I heard you last night. The boy froze. You did? Elon nodded. I didn't mean to. I was just walking by. A long silence. Then the boy said quietly, You never asked. Elon swallowed hard. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. For once he just nodded and whispered, You think I'm strong? The boy's eyes met his. I think you're tired. And lonely. Elon let out a shaky breath, eyes dropping to the floor. So do I. That night, alone in his study, Elon Musk closed the door, shut off the monitors, and sat on the floor in the dim light. And for the first time in decades, he whispered a prayer. Not confident, not eloquent, just real. I don't know if you hear me either. But if you do, I think I forgot what being strong actually means. The following morning, Elon Musk was different. At the daily briefing, he didn't fire off sharp questions or sarcastic remarks. He listened. Only once did he speak, asking about civilian safety in conflict zones. His team glanced at each other, surprised. Later, alone in his study, he opened the same leather notebook again. His mother's words, faint on the inside cover, stared back at him. Strength isn't the same as noise. He traced them slowly with his finger. That afternoon, his son X came into the office. Not because he was called, but because Elon had asked the guards to tell him he could visit any time. Elon stood in front of a framed photo from SpaceX's early years. I was younger there, he muttered. X tilted his head. Did you mean what you heard in my prayer? Elon turned. All of it? X nodded. Elon swallowed. You weren't wrong. For once, there was no lecture. No defense, just silence between father and son that felt more honest than words. That night, Elon Musk sat alone in his office. For the first time in years, the screens were dark. No launch videos, no stock tickers, no endless simulations. Just silence. He lowered himself onto the floor, leaned against the desk, and whispered words he had never imagined himself saying. I don't know if you hear me either. But maybe I forgot what being strong really means. His voice cracked, but he didn't stop. The sound of his own honesty felt strange, unfamiliar. He had spent a lifetime filling silence with noise, interviews, meetings, applause, criticism. But now, after hearing his son's prayer, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt alive. The next day, during a meeting with his engineers, Elon didn't jump in with corrections or demands. He listened, really listened. And when one young engineer nervously mentioned a design flaw, Elon didn't scold. He asked, How can we fix it together? Marcus, his chief of staff, blinked in surprise. It was small, almost invisible to most, but it marked a shift. Something inside him was changing, not in his companies, but in himself. The following evening, Elon Musk surprised his son again. Instead of staying in his office until midnight, he walked down the hall and gently knocked on X's door. The boy looked up from a book, startled. You praying again? Elon asked softly. X smirked. You checking again? For the first time in weeks, Elon smiled. I thought maybe we could pray together this time. The boy's eyes widened. For real? Elon nodded. For real. They knelt beside the bed, awkward at first. Elon wasn't used to silence that wasn't filled with calculations or strategies. He cleared his throat. You go first. X closed his eyes. His voice was small but steady. Thank you for today. And thank you that my dad is trying. Please help him keep trying even when it's hard. And thank you that he's brave enough to try in front of me. Elon swallowed hard, his throat tightening. He bowed his head. And thank you, he whispered, for my son. For his honesty. For not giving up on me, even when I probably deserved it. Amen, X said. Amen, Elon echoed, almost too quietly to hear. When he left the room, Elon didn't go back to his monitors or his notebooks. Instead, he walked to the old shelf by his desk and pulled out a leather journal he hadn't opened in decades. He tore out a fresh page and began to write, not a business plan, not a schedule, not an idea for a rocket. It was a letter. This one wasn't for his son. It was for his late brother Kimball's best friend, someone Elon had admired when he was young but never told, someone he wished he had spoken to more honestly before life swept them apart. The words came slowly, haltingly. "I didn't understand you back then. I think I do now. I wish I had prayed with you the way my son prays with me. I wish I had known what love sounded like when it was quiet. I'm sorry." When he finished, Elon folded the paper, placed it inside the leather notebook, and closed it. He sat there for a long while, staring at nothing, letting the silence sit with him. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel afraid of it. 2 days later, Elon Musk asked for a private meeting with a chaplain who often visited the Tesla factories for workers. No press, no cameras, just the two of them sitting outside in the garden under a wide umbrella. Elon didn't say much at first. He tapped his fingers on the table, restless as always. Finally, he asked, "Do people really change?" The chaplain smiled gently, only when they let something bigger than themselves in. Elon's brow furrowed. "And what if your whole life has been built on not doing that?" "Then it takes more courage," the chaplain replied. "But the door is still open." Elon nodded, staring down at his hands. After a long pause, the chaplain asked softly, "Do you pray, Mr. Musk?" Elon gave a dry laugh. "When I was a kid, my mom made us. I repeated words, but I don't think I ever meant them." He hesitated, voice dropping. "Last night, I meant it." The chaplain leaned back, letting the silence speak for itself. And for once, Elon didn't rush to fill it. That weekend, Elon Musk made an unusual choice. Instead of preparing for a board meeting or a product launch, he cleared his schedule. No interviews, no cameras, no press. Just one line sent through his staff, "Going dark for 36 hours. He walked down the hall to his son's room and knocked gently. "Packed yet?" he asked. X looked up, confused. "For what?" "I thought maybe we could take a little trip, just us." A few hours later, a black SUV pulled away quietly. No security detail in sight, no fanfare. Just father and son, side by side. For the first hour, they didn't talk much. X watched the road signs pass, and Elon stared out at the horizon, silent. Finally, the car turned down a quiet street in Pretoria, South Africa, the neighborhood where Elon had grown up. The old house still stood, bricks weathered but strong. Elon stepped out, staring at it for a long moment. "I used to climb out of that window when I didn't want to go to church," he muttered with a faint smile. X tilted his head. "Did they catch you?" "My mom just handed me a Bible and said, 'If you're going to skip church, at least talk to God yourself.'" They both laughed softly. Then Elon pointed to the sidewalk. "I used to sit right there with my cousin, playing with little gadgets we built from scraps. We thought we could change the world with batteries and wires." X grinned. "Guess you weren't wrong." Elon chuckled, eyes misting slightly. For once it felt like the past wasn't a weight, but a bridge. Later that afternoon, Elon took his son to the cemetery where his mother was buried. The grounds were quiet, the grass trimmed neatly, the headstones lined in silence. They stood side by side before the stone that bore her name. Elon's face tightened. He hesitated, then slowly knelt, resting one hand on the cool stone. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "I think I forgot how to be small," he admitted. "But I'm remembering now. I heard your voice and my son's. You would have liked him." X stood quietly, watching his father, not as the world's richest man, not as the builder of rockets and cars, but as a son remembering his mother. For the first time, he saw his father wipe away a single tear, quietly, without shame. No cameras, no audience, just truth. That night, back in their temporary hotel, father and son shared a simple meal. They didn't talk much, but X reached across the table and held his dad's hand for a moment. Elon didn't pull away. He just let it stay there, letting silence do what words couldn't. The following week, Elon Musk attended a small, private gathering with SpaceX, engineers and several veterans, who had been invited to share their experiences. Normally, these meetings were quick photo ops or polite handshakes. But this time, Elon sat down and asked questions, real questions. One veteran spoke quietly about losing a close friend to suicide after deployment. Elon didn't interrupt. He asked for the man's name, repeated it aloud, and wrote it down in his small leather notebook. Another veteran, missing a leg, described his recurring dreams where he still walked with both feet. Elon looked at him, paused, and said softly, "That's a powerful sentence. Thank you for sharing it." When the event ended, Elon didn't rush to leave. He stayed seated, hands folded, deep in thought. As conversations continued around him, an aide approached. "Are you all right, sir?" Elon nodded slowly. "Better than all right. I'm just remembering how to listen." That evening, he returned to X's room. The boy was reading in bed. Elon knocked. "You praying again?" he asked gently. X looked up. "You checking again?" Elon smiled faintly. "This time, maybe we pray together." And so father and son knelt once more, their voices quiet, their words unpolished, but true. On the morning of the National Day of Prayer, the Tesla headquarters buzzed with its usual urgency. Engineers hurried between labs. Staff prepared press releases, and outside, reporters gathered with cameras ready. But inside his office, Elon Musk stood quietly before a mirror. He adjusted his jacket, then paused. For once, he really looked at himself. His reflection didn't show the showman, the entrepreneur, or the billionaire. It showed a man asking a simple question. "What do you actually believe in, Elon?" The words of his son echoed in his memory. Help him know he doesn't have to win all the time. When he walked onto the stage in the main hall, the crowd expected bold declarations, promises, and showmanship. Instead, Elon paused, scanning the audience of employees, press, and community leaders. "A few weeks ago," he began slowly, "I heard something I wasn't meant to hear. My son was praying for me." The room grew still. Cameras clicked, but no one dared interrupt. He wasn't asking for money, or fame, or victories. He was asking that I remember how to be human again. Elon lowered his gaze, his voice softer than anyone had ever heard from him in public. "I've spent most of my life building rockets, cars, companies, but none of that matters if I forget what my son already knows. That strength isn't noise. It's love." He stepped back from the podium. No grand finale, no applause line. Just truth. That evening, on the balcony of his home, he sat with his son X, 2 mugs of hot cocoa in their hands. They looked out over the city. X broke the silence. "You really talked about me today?" Elon nodded with a small smile. "I did." "Were you nervous?" "Terrified," Elon admitted, laughing softly. X grinned. "Did you pray?" Elon looked out at the fading sky. "Right before I spoke, I said, 'Let me sound like the boy who reminded me how.'" The boy leaned against him, and for the first time in a long time, Elon Musk didn't feel like the CEO of anything. He just felt like a father.